I went to pick up a free couch from a Craigslist ad. Google Maps took me someplace else. It all started with a Craigslist ad. I had just moved into a new apartment, and being the broke post-grad that I am, I had pretty much nothing to my name except a few boxes of stuff from my parents' house and a busted-up box spring mattress. At that point, most days, I was sitting cross-legged on the floor in the living room, eating off paper plates while binging Netflix on my laptop for hours at a time. Clearly, this was no way to live, and so I decided to log on to my neighbor's unprotected Wi-Fi network and hunt for some furniture, so I could at least binge Netflix from the comfort of a couch and stop eating on the floor like a savage. And so I hopped onto the free section of Craigslist and began searching for a couch. Have you ever searched for a couch on Craigslist? It's not great. Half the couches on there are held together with duct tape and the other half are covered in stains of dubious origin. I may be broke as hell, but I'm not that broke. I have standards. I had to have been scrolling for well over an hour and was probably already a week into the backlogs. I was going to quit, but decided to give the page a refresh before calling it a day. And the moment I refreshed, it caught my eye. The ad was right at the top, not even a minute old, listed as, "Brand new couch, never used, free for pickup." Brand new sounded pretty good to me, so I went ahead and opened it. The couch was in perfect condition, almost suspiciously perfect, and there were no stains, no lumps, no broken legs. I wasn't one to look a gift horse in the mouth, so I typed a quick response that I'd be willing to take it off their hands, and then prayed that no one had beaten me to the punch. I got a response less than 5 minutes later. "Yeah, the couch is all yours if you can come by and pick it up today. I'm available at 8 o'clock, so be sure to get here by then. You might want to leave soon." I was slightly confused by the last part until I saw the address. This place was way out in the boonies, way far, nestled in the part of the country reserved for mountain men and hillbillies. I was hesitant. It was a long drive to the back country, where no one can hear you scream. But as I sat there in my sparse living room on the bare floor, I realized that I really needed that couch. And it was probably safe. People almost always walk away from Craigslist deals alive. Usually. It was a stupid thing to do, but I did it anyways. I typed out another quick reply that I'd be heading out right away and thanked them for the couch. Then I grabbed my keys and bolted out the door and hopped in my truck. I plugged the address into Google Maps and was on my way. As I drove down the interstate, I began to appreciate just how far I was going to get one piece of furniture. The cityscape soon gave way to suburban housing developments, and those developments soon gave way to the vast brush of the middle of nowhere. I never really understood why people would want to be so far removed from society, but to each their own, I guess. I had been driving through the mountains and valleys for the better part of an hour when Google Maps finally spoke up. "In 500 feet, take exit 23 for Arbor Road." I sighed in relief. I was getting closer. As I got off the freeway, Google chimed in again. "Take the next right on Arbor Road." I made my way deeper and deeper into the countryside. Giant oaks leaned over stretches of road, and every so often a squirrel would tempt fate and dash across the road in front of me. It was deserted. I don't think I saw another car since I had gotten off the freeway. "In 200 feet, take the next left onto Gable Lane." I jumped a little when Google broke the silence, but quickly regained my senses and slowed down to take the left. "Turn left on Gable Lane." But I couldn't see it. There didn't seem to be any road at all, just woods and brush. I stopped in the middle of the road. I could see the path on the map. There should be a road. I pulled my car forward, slowly, searching for the street that should be there. And then I saw it, just barely. It was like the woods was trying to hide it. It was almost completely overgrown on the sides, brush piled high on both sides, spilling out onto the asphalt. The sign was literally being swallowed up by a tree. The words "Able Land" poked out from beneath the bark. I'll be honest, I nearly turned around right there. This is the part of the horror movie where you yell at the idiot college kids to turn around and spend spring break in Cabo like everyone else. But I had been driving forever, and turning around then would have meant wasting the afternoon and about half a tank of gas. I'm frugal, if a little stupid. So I took the left and pushed past the overgrown brush onto Gable Lane. From there, it wasn't as spooky as you'd think from the creepy entrance. Gable Lane opened up once again into a proper road, and I was on my way once more. And then, 10 minutes later, the road stopped. Or rather, the asphalt did. Big clouds of dust filled the air as my truck hit a dirt road. I did a quick check of my map to be sure I hadn't taken a wrong turn, but the app confirmed I was going in the right direction. I drove down the dirt road for a good 5 minutes when Google Maps chimed in again. In half a mile, take a right at the gnarled oak tree. That was odd. Since when did Google Maps start giving directions like a clerk at a liquor store? Does Google Maps even use landmarks in their directions? But sure enough, a half a mile down the road, a huge oak tree stood, old and twisted, half of its leaves missing. And at its base was another dirt road, much less traveled, nearly overrun with tall grass. I took the turn and continued down the road. The next 15 minutes was a rabbit trail of different roads and landmarks that took me deeper and deeper into the woods. Turn left at the pile of rocks. Turn left at the broken down tractor. Turn right into the grove of trees. I had nearly reached my breaking point, which, I admit, I probably should have reached far sooner, when the road in front of me stopped dead. There was no asphalt, no dirt, just a wall of trees and bushes. I couldn't drive any farther. I was pissed. Google had screwed up. It took me on a wild goose chase through the middle of nowhere, likely way far away from my destination, and now some other lucky bastard was going to get my free couch. Take the wooden footpath ahead for 100 yards. I snapped out of my anger. What did it just say? I looked at my phone. The instructions had turned from car directions to walking directions, the little walking man icon now highlighted on the screen. I looked up, and through the glare on my windshield I could see it. Straight ahead, there was a small break in the bushes, behind which I could see a series of wooden logs half buried in the dirt, forming a path through the trees. Again, had I more sense, I would have turned back then. But I'm nothing if not persistent, so instead I climbed out of my truck, locked it, and headed through the trees and down the path. The path wound up and down through the hillside, through the trees, around prickly bushes, and soon my truck was out of sight. It started to occur to me that even if I found the house and got the couch, I was going to have to lug it all the way back to the truck. That was going to be a gigantic pain in the ass. I could only hope the couch giver would lend me a hand. I was pretty far down the path when Google spoke again. After the bend, take a left along the riverbank. I could hear the water before I saw it. As I rounded the bend, a large rushing river came into view. It didn't look deep, but it didn't exactly look safe to cross. I was glad Google wasn't asking me to ford it. I did as instructed and took a left alongside the river. Google chimed in almost immediately. In 200 feet, take the fallen tree over the river. Of course I was going to have to cross the damn river. It wasn't long before I saw the tree. It was huge and long dead, devoid of any leaves and dry as a bone. It lay across the river, resting on either side of the bank. The river ran below it, a bit calmer than when I first saw it, but I still wasn't keen on falling in. Take the fallen tree over the river. I took a deep breath, scrambled over the roots, and hoisted myself up on the dead tree. Why the hell not? I'd come this far. Even if there was no couch at the end of this, I'd at least have a fun story to tell. It was a slightly scary trip across the dead tree. I was certain at some point my foot would break through a rotten patch, and I'd turn my ankle or go sprawling into the water below. But aside from a few worrying creaks and cracks, I got to the other end with no problem. Google had started talking again before my feet even touched the ground on the other side. Take the path in the thicket ahead for 400 yards. All right, Google, you're the boss. I proceeded through the thicket ahead, almost enjoying myself at that point. I was bushwhacking like some old-school adventurer. Except the hidden treasure I was seeking was a couch instead of the Holy Grail. Along the way, Google kept feeding me instructions. Take a right around the large boulder. Take the embankment upward to your left. Keep straight past the hornet's nest. In 50 feet, take a right past the rotten stump. Looking back, the directions were impossible. How the hell would Google know that a hornet's nest would be on that tree? There's no way they were sending people down here to plot directions to some redneck's house in the butt crack of nowhere. But I was tired and stubborn and in the moment. It barely registered. I know what you're thinking. I am not a smart person. You're not wrong. I had just finished wading through a sea of bushes when I came into what I can only describe as a hollow. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what I'm calling it. The forest cleared out in nearly a perfect circle, maybe 40 feet in every direction. The branches of the ancient trees joined together above me, shutting out the sun, casting the entire area in shadow. And in the middle of the hollow was a large stony outcropping, jutting out of the ground like a broken molar. And in the middle of that outcropping was an opening. I stepped out into the hollow and could feel the temperature change. I stopped dead. This wasn't right. I nearly jumped when Google spoke up. Enter the cave. And that was that. I was done. Like hell I was going into some creepy cave in the woods for a damned couch. I'll put up with a good amount of nonsense, but I have my limits. I turned to leave, hoping I could get back to my car and the main road before the sun went down. Google piped up again. Enter the cave. Yeah, no thanks. I stepped towards the exit of the hollow and hadn't even gone 2 steps before it interjected once more. The way back is closed. Enter the cave. What do you mean the way back is closed? I shouted at my phone. I'm going back to my truck. You do not know how to get back. You will get lost. I stopped dead and chills went down my spine. I stared at my phone for a few seconds before raising it up to my mouth. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. I was on the verge of pissing my pants. I could feel myself begin to shake. I clenched my fists, took a few deep breaths before the panic could overtake me. I steeled myself and shouted back at my phone. I'm not going into that freaking cave. I'm going back to the truck. You do not know the way back. And then the fear gave way to anger. I was fully prepared to get into an argument with my phone right then and there when I realized it was right. Google must have given me 20 different directions since I left my car, and they were all basically down unmarked paths. There was no way I could find my way back without Google, and Google was not going to help me. If I tried to find my way back, I'd be stuck in deliverance country in the middle of the night, alone. I considered phoning for help, but my reception was dead, and the bars replaced with a big fat circle with a slash through it. Enter the cave. I clenched my jaw. I didn't have much of a choice. I was basically hosed no matter what I chose to do. I turned around, looking into the mouth of the cave. It was pitch black, a gaping maw in the middle of the rock, and that's where I had to go. I approached it, slowly, carefully, as if the entrance were a wild animal waiting to swallow me whole. As I reached the entrance, I could smell the fetid aroma of damp, dead leaves. The air around the entrance was even colder than the air at the beginning of the hollow. The chilling air wrapped around my chest, almost as if it meant to grab me and drag me into the depths. I looked down at the shining light of my phone screen. Google spoke once more. Enter the cave. I took a deep, shuddering breath, closed my eyes, and with all the courage I could muster, I stepped into the cave.